we'll talk a little bit about what those roles are. But the meeting today is really to share with you what we've learned through some existing conditions analysis and some conversations we've already had with the Sherwood Main Street organization, as well as City Council. And I'm going to hand it off to Will, and we'll just go around the rest of the room. But thank you again for coming tonight.
Yes, Will Grimm with First 40 Feet as well. Very good to be here. I'm glad you took the time to listen to us, and we're going to learn a lot, I hope.
Awesome. Keith Mays, City Council.
I'm Sarah Abel with the Historical Society of Sherwood, Oregon, Old Town.
And I'm Jennifer Katzler, and I'm a downtown Sherwood resident and on the Arts Commission.
Jean Simpson, and I am on the Planning Commission.
Great.
Renee Browse, City Council.
Now you're muted.
No.
Tara?
I'm Tara,
Oh,
coded audience. Can you hear me?
Oh, great. Eric screwed it up again. Sorry, you guys are muted on our side.
Other people can hear. I'm on the Parks Board, and they requested one of us to join the Old Town planning thing. Planning this group.
Wait, Tara, we can hear you, but they can't.
Oh, no, we heard Tara at the very end, and we just heard
very
you.
good.
I'm on the
wonderful.
I'm on the Parks Board, and they asked one of us to join.
Perfect.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jake.
Jacob Flug. I'm one of the owners of Symposium Coffee, and I also run the Main Street program for Sherwood.
And I'm Lawson Smith, and I'm one of the owners of Mason Restaurant in Old Town.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, please take
let's
this.
go ahead and get the PDF.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Let's see, we're going to share. Hopefully that works here. Oh, we got another admin here.
Oh, okay. Jared.
And welcome, Jared.
Hello, Jared.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Jared.
Hello.
Jared, we just went through introductions. We're glad you're here.
Excellent.
I'm Jason. If you can see me waving my hand, I'm with First 40 Feet. We're about ready to get started with this brief presentation and discussion with this group, the Project Advisory Committee. But do you just want to introduce yourself to all of us real quick?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I'm Jared Rallison. I've got a small tasting room there in Old Town Sherwood in between 503 and Mason. It's J. Rallison Cellars. We just had our 7th year anniversary this past spring. And I'm happy to be part of the community. Such a great group of people, and happy to be part of this committee as well.
Thank you. We're excited to have you here, for sure.
Thank you.
And the conversation's all about Old Town, so that should make it easy for everyone, because the topic is hot and heavy in everyone's mind. This is just some quick introduction to the project. This is being led by the city of Sherwood. This is a strategic plan for Old Town. I'm Jason with First 40 Feet, here with Will. We're urban designers. We do a lot of downtown revitalization. We're being helped from the market and analysis side with Leland Consulting Group. Looks like we may have someone else.
No, it's me.
Sorry. Okay. Just wanted to make sure
moving.
someone wasn't trying to get on board.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm just making coffee, so I'm going to be right here.
Come back when you're ready.
Ready.
We're also being assisted by Harper Huff. They've done a lot of work as an engineering firm in Sherwood with your street project and a number of infrastructure projects around the community. So they're very familiar with Sherwood. They're helping us to understand what impacts utilities might have on infill and development. So they're sort of here to check the boxes if in fact there's some things that are limiting development potential in Old Town. We're focused on the area you see here in yellow. So that's the Smockville district and the Cannery district of downtown.
Hey, Jason.
Yes.
Your presentation is not up right now.
It's not, okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Oh, that's okay.
Teams and then share. There you go.
How about that?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
When I left, I didn't come back. Project area here, outlined in yellow. Smockville district on the north side, the Cannery district on the south side. This strategic plan is, really intended to look at some decision-making for Old Town. And there's a number of issues that we've been really asked to look at, and we're going to go through a number of topic items that I think impact the growth and health of businesses in Old Town, and really this being the center of the community. A lot of investment has occurred in bringing new jobs into the community. And I think the outgoing economic development director said, hey, let's take a hard look at one of our strongest assets, and that's Old Town, and see what we can do to continue for that area of the community to thrive. And so that's basically the crux of this strategic plan. The idea is that we're going to come back with some actionable items within a 5-year time frame that are thinking about what investments the city or contributing as investor in downtown through programs or infill of redevelopment sites. And so we're going to look at a number of.
We've lost the share.
I did. Okay.
Not sure why.
Let me try that again.
It's like the connection being cut.
So let's just not go full screen.
Just like
Oh,
this.
okay.
See what happens.
Yeah. So we can just easily go back and forth. Are you able to see that okay? Or am I not sharing?
Okay.
Yes, I am sharing. Okay. Perfect. Let's keep going. We have a number of objectives. We're speaking to council. We've talked to the Sherwood Main Street organization. We're hoping at some point to have a touch point with the community at large. We're still sort of working through that right now. We're really focused on those folks who have skin in the game in Old Town, as well as the decision makers around that. So from the city's perspective, we're interested in these economic development goals and business growth goals you see here, promoting business growth and retention in Old Town, thinking about housing, thinking about the mix of uses that'll be important for the vitality of Old Town, thinking about infill and development sites, and the ability to attract investors and developers, and certainly supporting the Sherwood Main Street organization as they advance their 4-point Main Street model program. So we're learning a bit about that group. They're learning a bit about what their relationship with the city ongoing might be. And I think that group is still putting together sort of their long-term plan and organization moving forward as an advanced group supporting Old Town. So we're sort of working together, learning from each other, and hopefully the outcome of this is going to help give some direction to the Sherwood Main Street organization, at the same time give the city some pointed actions to support that group as well. So this is intended to be a mutual effort between the city and that downtown organization. The city council has certain visions and goals for Old Town, and so we want to really pick apart what those are and to try to advance some of those projects that may be able to happen in near term. I think the infill and redevelopment sites up and down Pine Street are a real focus for us. So we're going to talk quite a bit about that today. Infrastructure impacts down the road that we might need to consider. We want to at least unravel that and understand where those impacts might be. Some of that is access issues into parts of the Cannery District. And again, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then are there any incentives or tools, either through regulation refinements or modifications? I know there's been some issues with new development not being the best representative of urban form in downtown. And so are there ways to address some of those issues, but also are there tools or incentives to either bring more businesses into Old Town and or support existing businesses that are already here? What tools might be available and the city might consider down the road? So you all have been tremendous to agree to this journey, which is about a 12-month long process. We look to probably have up to 5 meetings with you all. This is the first one. But you're really our canary in the coal mine, and you're gonna be our litmus test in terms of what are the issues? Are we defining them correctly? Where we're looking for recommendations or scenarios of development or ways of advancing infill in the downtown? Are we approaching it the right way? Are we talking to the right people? So you're really here to help us move through the guiding document and then ultimately getting to a strategic plan. We've kicked off this project in September, met with the city, met with the former economic development director. We've met with city council on 2 occasions to introduce the project. And this is our first touch point with you all. And we also met with the Sherwood Main Street organization last month. So this is all really kind of the introductory work. And Will can sort of give you a bit of a summary of what we've heard from those initial meetings with city council and with the Sherwood Main Street organization.
Yeah, I mean, the insight that we've gotten so far is tremendous. This is not all of it. It's just the highlights that we've heard over and over. This is city council. This is their meeting with the Main Street Coalition as well. And just, I think the word discoverability, I think we were trying to invent a word there, which I remember, which is really fun. Cause that's the word that was like, I circled that one. So increased public life, the energy, just drive foot traffic. I think getting whether it's retail or a mix of uses down, get people downtown, maybe even extend that longevity that they are downtown. Maybe I think about all seasons, all hours. And I think we heard this Instagrammable moments, like another reason. Maybe there are artistic reasons. Maybe there's integration of art that brings people down as well. You have lots of that already, but that's something that has been added. The third place, this concept of just going down there, maybe it's not home or office, but maybe you go down there for a third place to maybe people watch or maybe work. And obviously incentives, we mentioned that for businesses. I think more retail was also mentioned a lot, which we will also get into. We've done some studies on how much retail you actually have downtown in Old Town. And then obviously infrastructure improvements, that came up several times as well. So again, we're going to have a great summary of everything that we've heard, because that's what's going to drive design. So we will be presenting that back pretty comprehensively, whether that's through an infographic or some type of readable information, so we could see how that design is being reflected from our community input.
Are there any questions for anyone at this point? Either on the objectives or perfect? Because I'll go like a steam engine. I'll be like a fire hose throwing information at you. So I'm going to try and pause whenever I can.
And if you have any questions, please, while we're presenting, please.
Yeah, please interrupt or hit chat. Go ahead, Tara. Do you have something?
If it's possible to email this presentation out so we can, I have my computer and then I have you on my phone. That way I can look at it while you're going through it and refer back and come up with questions.
I agree, absolutely, because I cannot follow this while you guys are doing this. It'd be nice to have that in a,
Definitely.
yes.
Sure. And anytime you want to write anything at any point, this is what this committee is. Write it
Well,
down.
yeah, we need more information because you guys are going through all these things and I'm new here, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not in this, I've not been in this group before,
Yeah.
so I think it's excellent. We need to have more.
And I think Tara's asking for it right now, right, Tara? So you can pull it up.
Yeah. And so far the general concepts are totally great. It's more, like nailing down more of specifics, but that takes time.
And also, this presentation is about input, about insight. We haven't drawn anything, nothing's been designed, nothing's been decided. We're just this is like discovery phase for us, like any kind of input. And if there's anything you don't understand, ask us.
If it's a very open scenario here, one of the things I know that there's a desire to increase foot traffic. There'd be concerns about parking in that regard. The more people, the more cars. So just being able to you know, keep in mind, like maybe a distant parking garage that's still walkable
Sure.
instead of everyone flooding Old Town with their cars.
Right.
So I'm not able to email right now.
Okay, I can do
Get
that.
on the fly here, but if,
I could definitely do that.
Parking is very
Yeah.
important.
well, I mean, and I did neglect to put the parking up here, but the good news is about 80% of your available parking downtown is publicly accessible, meaning it's either in lots near the Arts Center along Railroad, or it's on street. In a lot of communities, that's the opposite. There's like 30 to 40% is available to the public, and most of it's in private lots where you have to go from lot to lot. As you move around downtown, you all do have opportunities to park once, whether it's coming in off, First Avenue, or it's coming in off Main or Washington. So that's some of the good news. I mean, it's, it's a fine balance of an old school street network of having parking lots without taking a block out of buildings to park it. So, I think right now, you're probably not at a major parking problem. Obviously, as you get more and more successful, that may or may not be the case. But in any case, that's a part of the strategic plan, right? So an outcome would be, do we need to identify additional reserve of parking sites? Maybe it's a vacant property where we can add additional parking. So we will be looking at it as some interim solutions, but maybe a longer term strategy is a parking management plan. So let's talk about some sort of key topics, because this was, as an outsider, right? Whenever you come into the community, and especially Old Town, which it's unique because you guys are like off the beaten path, right? You're not right off 99, teed in, but you're a ways away. And so there's sort of that lack of visibility and access from those major transportation routes, whether it's Highway 99 or Tualatin Sherwood, which is the way we come in from Portland. And it's a little bit of a journey of discovery, I guess, coming into town. So there's some limited wayfinding and signage. When you're in downtown, the railroad is a bit of a barrier separating Smockville from Cannery. You've got Main and you've got Pine. Those are your crossings, but it really does create that seam and a bit of a barrier. The Public Works, Columbia Street in particular, is really not accessible. You have to go kind of out and around to access the field house. So just sometimes getting here is a bit of a challenge.
So there is, did anybody tell you about the fire district?
Tell me about it.
So the fire district has in some report plan they need to build a new station.
Okay.
So they have the option of somehow figuring out how to rebuild on site or finding a new location and relocate. And the existing site would be very difficult probably to work in a new configuration. So odds are better than not, they'll find, if they can find a new location that meets their requirements, they will in 5-10 years build a new one. Is the current mindset. I mean, like any agency, they can change their mind tomorrow, but if they were to relocate, then there is the potential of Columbia extending around to Division in some fashion.
So Keith is talking about the fire station, which is up here, right at Oregon
Yep.
Street. Or actually, it's right here, sorry.
Yeah.
That yellow
Yeah.
line is where the fire station is today. And this is kind of the area where it's really difficult to get in to Old Town or get to the field house. So I did have a question for all, and I'd love to hear, how do you all direct like out of towners to Old Town?
Depends on which, for me, depends on which direction.
Sure.
you're coming from.
But let's say,
Like from Tualatin Sherwood Road, I'd take him down Langer,
gotcha.
and from 99, I bring him down Sherwood
And if you're going
or
too
or
far,
Sunset. Yeah.
so if you're going too far and you cross the railroad track, you're in Old Town. So the railroad track is a key thing in Old Town. It's a key thing. The railroad track is a key thing. So you cross over the railroad track, you're going to Old Town. We don't want to the railroad track is a key thing. People don't remember that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fire station too. I mean,
Sure. So you have the railroad tracks, that's a good indicator, like a decision point, right? Like when if you cross the tracks, you're heading in.
and the fire station used to be a big one too, and now they're gonna be moving that, and so there are these key things.
I don't know, I feel
Fine.
like technology, that with everything on everybody's phone, they just get guided in. I don't really give any directions.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, it could be the worn path you normally take, but, yes, of course, a lot of people have their phones. Jake, did you have a comment?
I think most of my time is spent navigating people out, which when they come to the shop and they're wondering how to get back to the highway. And so I usually send them down Sherwood Boulevard, right. And that's the easiest
Yeah.
way in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if people are coming from Newburgh, I
Right,
send
but
them
you
to
can,
Sherwood
you can
Boulevard.
say, if you didn't get to the symposium, if you cross the railroad tracks, you need to come back. So you get to your coffee house.
Well,
So with all
The
the
railroad,
traffic.
the railroad
go ahead.
tracks aren't going anywhere, are they?
Nope.
No,
Yeah.
unfortunately, sorry about that, Lost.
I emailed that to you.
Presentation forwarded to Tara. I don't have her number.
Send it to the whole group, that would be.
Oh, great, yeah. We come down to Walton Sherwood, so we always go Oregon Street because there's been so much construction that it's easy to take that left at Oregon. But there's a decision point when you hit the roundabout, and there is a little sign that says, Old Town Field House. So, I was just curious about routes, so thanks everyone for indulging me in that. And I am taking notes.
Once the Sherwood Road's fixed, I would say Langer would be
Langer is kind of the primary,
that
so.
would be the primary feeder so that you don't have people going down.
And I
So-
think more signage,
School
I think
zones.
more obvious signage about Old Town being this way, however it can be done would be a definite thing that could be done.
That is a great lead-in, Lawson, to what we're looking at now. And am I still sharing? Just a nod, Lawson, if you
You
can
are.
see that.
Red
Okay,
dot.
perfect. Just want to make sure. So we took Street View and we just looked at every basically possible connection to downtown. Like I knew Oregon Street. I know Langer's a key one off Sherwood. I know Sherwood Boulevard is a key one off 99 and Sunset's another important one. And it'll continue to be as the city grows in that southwest quadrant. And what we found is, so these orange squares represent all the locations we looked at to see if there was signage and wayfinding. And so there's only one indication of Old Town on Highway 99, and that's at Sherwood Boulevard. And that gets you to, and we'll look at some of the details of that. So we looked at all these locations. The big blue circles are the primary connections off major routes. And then we looked at these small blue circles, which were kind of decision points where you like had to make a choice. Am I going around a roundabout or whatever? Then the street design and built environment is thinking you have so much population within about a mile, 2 mile of downtown. So walking and biking is like not out of the realm of possibility. So we're curious, do these streets all provide sidewalks? Are they comfortable? Do they have buffers? Are there bike lanes? Are they multimodal streets? So also we're interested, do they have good lighting? And are windows and doors facing the street, or is it the backyards of all homes? Some communities you go into, you're just looking at fences and there's no active use on it. But we saw a variety of different things, but most of it was pretty good bones across the board. So as we come back to this signage and wayfinding, as I mentioned, at this number 1 mark here on Highway 99, you'll see there's a sign for the Railroad Street Antique Mall. It doesn't say Old Town, but it says the Antique Mall and the Visitor Center. So we're missing an opportunity to sort of highlight Old Town, right? Smack dab right when you get into town. And whether you think Sherwood is the most important, I think any visitor coming to town, you want to hit them at all intersection locations and try to direct them to Old Town as best you can from that intersection. So for instance, coming down off to Alton Sherwood to Langer is another route I've taken a number of times when I've come in, just because I generally know where I'm going. And you'll see there's a variety of different signs that are out there. There are some instances where historic Old Town is referenced on signs, but quite often, it's halfway down Sherwood Boulevard and it just sort of pops up.
Right.
So certainly building some continuity and consistency and also thinking about some of these key decision points like at roundabouts, making sure people get through and go out the right hole to get to Old Town, I think are gonna be good. When you get into downtown, pretty good signage about where City Hall is and some key destinations. So I think you're pretty good on that respect. And so another question for you all is if you're to walk and bike into downtown, like, are there streets you all normally take? It's like Main, I mean, I'm not sure where everyone lives, but if you are to walk or bike into downtown, everyone share with me their preferred route if they have one.
I live downtown. I live just above downtown, so I just walk down the hill,
Just walk down First Street and
First Street.
right into.
down Pine Street.
Uh-huh. And you take Pine?
So people do walk around. I mean, people walk around town all the time. The sidewalks are great. So I'm not sure if you're trying to draw people into Old Town for the amazing merchants that we have there, or the historical feeling of it, or what how you're trying to draw people. I don't think it's about the roads or the signage. I think it's about, you've got to say, we were an old, perhaps, the railroad, Sherwood was a railroad town. And so you build that. A lot of communities have built that about their historical place where we were railroad town, or there is so much history about how you get people into Old Town. So I know you guys are talking about infrastructure and how to get people into Old Town, and that's really important. And parking is very important. But you've got it, you've got it.
Absolutely not.
But it's okay. So we have to have.
The story of history is very much, the
That's right.
character, it's very much part of the story, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a, go ahead.
I think that Sunset to Maine is a beautiful pathway into Old Town, especially in this season. Washington Meineke is also a great way in. I think those are like the prettiest locations through parks and very treed avenues. But Oregon, Langer, Sherwood definitely is lacking luster. Washington Street is really difficult to navigate.
I would say Oregon Street really needs some more sidewalks on. I know they're building it on one side, but they need it on both sides because I can't take Oregon Street with my stroller and my kids.
Mhm.
And
I
feel
was gonna
safe
say,
going.
So Oregon Street, it's on the list to be redone. It has been 90% engineered.
Mhm.
And it'll be fantastic when we do that project. I'm not sure of the timing of that project. It's connected to multiple other projects.
I did want to point out that there are a couple of pedestrian pathways that are very well used by the community. And one of them is getting from the entire Woodhaven area down through Stella Olson Park. There's a really great walking, biking path that will come through. I can't remember the name of the Villa. Thank you. Goes down through the park and comes up right into Old Town. The second,
Not that way.
no,
That's the creek.
that's the creek, yeah.
Sure. It comes, yeah, like where the word Old Town is almost.
Mhm.
It's off of Railroad Street.
Yeah, I've got it in some later maps here. I'll
But-
show you
yeah.
where those are.
Second one is a lot of the folks that live close to Highway 99. They also come in on the new Cedar Creek Trail. A lot of people use that pedestrian way along the Cedar Creek Trail to come into downtown.
And I live out Oregon Street, and like
Uh-huh.
they said, that it's missing sidewalks, so when I've got my bike, will lam it in because
See. Mhm.
it doesn't have sidewalks that you can ride a bike on, but it's slower traffic.
Yeah.
So until the Cedar Creek Trail comes through on Oregon Street and that's completed, it is not super bike friendly into town.
Yeah, so I have to find out from
Time
staff, the timing of when that project we think we'll do. It's probably 5 years.
It's good. I mean,
But that's a big one,
The multi-use path you see on Oregon Street that's been built with the lighting is awesome. It's
and it's gonna
wide
be
and
all the way out.
It'll be a
connecting
regional
that
trail
all the way through.
Down.
And that's something to know about, is that regional trail system goes all the way down to the Wilsonville Oaks Bottom. So that'll be a destination trail from Wilsonville into Sherwood. So that connection within 5 years will be in alignment with this plan.
It's all part of the Ice Age.
The Tonquin
Ice-
Trail.
The top, the top.
Ice- Ice Age Trail.
I think, yeah, it's so yes, that's right.
So this map is looking at your transportation system plan and your town center plan. And there, there's existing trails here, there's dashed connections, which would be improved over time. So we're gonna start with this list and we're gonna look at what priority projects you put on the list. We're gonna fact check to see what's been built, what's still in the hopper. Cause we'd obviously like to prioritize some of these projects if we can really fill gaps, because that's the idea of the strategic plan. Can we find out where those gaps are to complete those loops? Because you do have this unique series of loops, either it's along the creek or whether it's north of town. And it connects into roadway, widened sidewalks on like Langer, which, you could bike off street on that as well. You also have some streets with bike lanes. And so we'll look at a comprehensive network. Yeah.
Jason, just, I wanted to know, if like all the work that you're doing, there's lots of other plans happening for signage, the Arts Commission's working on signage plans. The Community Development Director is working on upgrading some signage and it's walking signage. It's not necessarily directionals for downtown. It's that kind of that creative placemaking in that area. There's also what, Councilor Mays brought up, which is, the design and future construction of Northeast Oregon Street. So when you're looking at all of these, looking at the strategic plan, are you also pulling in all of the other plans that the city has for infrastructure and all of that other?
As much as we can.
Okay.
Yes, we're
So let's
trying to,
bring it out.
unless you bring it out, I won't know. Like, so you
That's what I mean.
mentioning this placemaking through like pedestrian wayfinding and signage would be great to know, get a contact from
Okay.
you for that and be able to know like timing and the geography where that might happen would be great.
Okay.
Can this project, coupled with any of the other projects, create grant opportunities or funding opportunities if we leverage the right piece in the right place? Is the work that we do here, can it be folded either into its own grant program or coupled with existing projects and provide them tools that they may need to finish their grant writing?
It could be, the idea is you create an action list, you prioritize that action list, and we want to compress this to a 5-year plan because we could make a long list, but we really want, I think, for council and others to dive in and focus on a 5-year. So, but to your point, yes, the more we can align work that's already out there and try to work together in partnership, for instance, if there is a project that is hitting a goal of city council, it's part of another group, and if we can connect them together and, it works from a timing perspective, then yeah, I think
This
this is a
might get
great
helpful.
opportunity. There's so much going on. This is kind of a chance to pull it all together and see where it's crossing over and we have common goals that maybe those become priority items. So that would be the goal.
And you already met with Main Street, but I'm sure you guys have talked and Jake's in the meeting and on the committee of the potential resources from the Main Street program that one could help and boost the chance of getting grants from the other and vice versa.
Project stacking is huge and there's so many grants out there right now.
Yeah, for the city
There's-
not to do everything, have partners is great. Go ahead.
I mean, through Main Street, I have access to $400,000 every other year for project completion. But that's only through Main Street, but there's other avenues that we can go. So like sidewalks or trails, or we're an AARP city anyways, which is odd when our sidewalk system outside of Old Town is rough, but we represent that pretty well. I know there's a lot of money through their grants, through their grant structure to improve sidewalks and walkability in communities. And so there's lots of different grants that we could go for. We just need an action list of what to tick off down the road.
Right.
And Jacob, that's through Old Town, right? Those
That's
grants are through Old Town.
I mean, one is a Main Street grant, and the other one, I went to the Main Street conference last year, and there's a community that got like $500,000 to upgrade their sidewalks through AARP. So it's like, if we just know what to look for, then we can start grant writing and going for these, but our goal as Main Street is to work in tandem, not to just create our own structure. And
So you're
do things that
referring to
people
the
don't want.
Jake, you're referring to the senior friendly city, correct? Funds that are available.
Is that AARP? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the right, it's the right way to call it is senior friendly community. And if you're friendly to seniors, you're friendly to all folks, all ages.
All abilities.
That's
Yes.
a really good point. One of the things I wanted to point out along First Street, and it's a safety issue. It really is. And I don't know if the city could get the right of way for it or not, but there is no sidewalk for a good part of the road for maybe a block, half a block. Seniors, but 2 blocks. So for anybody walking into Old Town from
From the east. Mhm.
from the east has to walk in the road for, I don't know, how many feet would you say? 150, 200 feet before they can get back up on the sidewalk again.
And if
Oh,
anyone wants to apply for a traffic change right there, I applied for that same thing
Oh, you
last
did?
month and
Yeah.
was denied. So if everybody wants to do it, then they totally can go for it.
Okay, that's good to know.
Well, I'll make a note of that too.
Yeah.
This map here, we did sort of a cursory look in these orange squares of a variety of different streets around and mapped them. And this is just giving you an indication of what one of those look like. So we were looking, do they have sidewalks on both sides, or buildings facing the street, are there bike lanes, all that. So, but we didn't do a comprehensive
Yeah.
run. We may not be able to do that, but knowing where there's definitely issues within our project area, that's really important. So I like that, thanks for sharing that First Avenue need. And so this is kind of a broad focus area, thinking about Old Town business health and growth. This is really about trying to couch population with retail and commercial capacity, because there's only so much a community can that can be healthy in a community. And really you have 2 areas where retail and commercial are primarily happening in the community. Your regional auto-oriented retail and services, obviously up near 99 and Sherwood, and that's where you have full robust grocery stores, you have multitude of options for dining, you have a number of services, a lot of national chains, pharmacies, those things are occurring where they have the best access to customers, because they've got the drive-by traffic and they can reach a population 5+ miles from downtown, 15-20 minute drive can go there. Old Town doesn't have that drive-by traffic in close proximity. So getting to Old Town is largely a series of destinations, like uniquely draw people to it. And also that close-in population who are surrounding it. And there's neighborhoods all around, but there's.
That's why we library and city halls. And
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
That's why the art center's in Old Town.
Absolutely. Those are critical for the success of Old
The water
Town.
feature park is in Old
Bringing
Town.
people, yes, the public amenities that you built with Cannery Square, with Robin Hood Plaza, these are the things that people can't get out on the fringe at the commercial and retail strip corridors. But this is a place where you have events, where you have programming, where as you build more and more a critical mass of things that feed off those destinations. I think that's really where your success is going to be. And I think there is room for growth, Part of that could be with some additional population close by, but that's not enough, obviously, to support a grocery store in downtown. There may be a smaller component of that, but in some respects, we have to realize what our limitations are, and, you know, we don't, to think that you're gonna get a 30 to 50,000 square foot grocery in Old Town is just probably not gonna happen, but other things likely could be. And we have heard like even a small market concept is being kicked around by a local business owner downtown. So I think just understanding where we are is always helpful, so we're not overreaching. And so I was curious what attracts you all to downtown. It could be events, it could be the library, it could be any number of things, but I'm just curious, sort of from your all's personal perspectives, like what attracts you to Old Town?
Well, I mean, I'm on the Arts Commission, oh, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
When it's
Tara?
pulled, it gets.
And a lot of people from the community use the Arts Center all the time. It's really near capacity most weekends for sure. And that brings a lot of people in. I go downtown all the time, so I'm attracted to it for a number of reasons, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss, go ahead.
Sarah, you were gonna say
Oh,
something.
yeah. Oh, because I have small kids, at the library and Canary Square and the Art Center, all of the, the tree lighting, Robin Hood Festival, all the festivities, attract us and the kids programs. I also, I like to walk and hike. I'm up by Murdoch and Sunset, but I'll walk all the way down to, down Pine Street to go to Old Town during the Saturday market, which is great, and get my kids some donuts on Sundays or Saturdays, and then back, when that's happening. So, certainly like all the obvious things would attract someone like me.
I just spend 80% of my life at my job, so that's why I'm there. No, I hear from customers a lot though. I mean, it's definitely draw the more things we get down there that are interesting, and like more tasting rooms, the coffee shop. And I know like Symposium and 503 have expanded into like other things like whiskey, and that brings a uniqueness to the area. The tasting rooms are certainly a draw for a lot of people. And I'm speaking mainly for a night crowd because that's what my experience is. But yes, the library and arts center, especially for families, that's a huge thing. But I think the more we get those kinds of not just food and beverage, but just interesting, different, unique things to Old Town, I think that's going to be a draw, because the more we've grown over the last 10 years that at least I've been in business there and seen more additions, I think the more people are coming to Sherwood and Old Town. So there's that.
Yeah, I echo what Lawson said. I get a lot of business from neighbor businesses. I get, obviously people going to Lawson's Place, 503, but commerce as well. And it's good to see what's going on a couple blocks down. It's good to see Cedar and Stone doing so well. That brings in a lot of people, and I send a lot of people over there. So the more the merrier.
Yeah.
And then you come down to where do you put them? And I think that to me is one of the biggest issues facing Old Town is, more available space for more retail or restaurant or beverage or unique shops like Cedar and Stone. So I've been saying for years, I think that's one of our biggest challenges is where are these people going to go? Where are these businesses going to be able to go without somebody else having to shut their doors to bring in a new business? So
Yeah.
So I've hopped through a couple of slides because I think we covered those.
I would like to tell a story,
Sure.
please.
Yeah,
May I?
please.
Okay.
Of course.
So this is an amazing story about, so I also volunteer at the Tualatin Refuge Wildlife thing. And so we started putting little flyers, and we sell our historical books there at, because I'm the book buyer there. So what is really interesting is that we put a few flyers out there very, casually, and then we had the books there. And now we're getting people at the Historical Society in our old town, okay? They're coming in, oh, and they have their little crumpled piece of paper that they got from the refuge. And they say, oh, we came, why did you come today? Well, because, and they pulled this thing, and they say, they told us you were here. And so it's a big thing. So this map, like, this is huge. Okay, this map you guys sent out, this is huge. And it involves also, maybe it's out here, but the Tualatin River National Wildlife Refuge. So it's really cool. And then when I volunteer there, they'll say, well, do you have any place to recommend for lunch? And I'll say, yeah, there's places in Old Town Sherwood. Do you know how to get there? And then I pull out my handy map and I say, here's how to get from here to there. And then they can figure it out. So, I mean, this is about a community effort from the big circle here that we're talking about. And so this is a really exciting thing that can happen at any moment. So we have people coming from the Tualatin refuge and then coming over to the Historical Society with a crumpled up piece of paper. And then the people at the Historical Society say, oh, where would you like to go for lunch? And then they say, oh, go here and there. So this is a connect, right? We're talking about, I know you guys, I'm talking about big stuff. You guys are talking about infrastructure. I'm talking about big picture.
We're talking about all these things that you dialed into a number of
Yeah.
questions we had about how you get people to Old Town. You just gave us a great story about the refuge.
Yeah.
As a landing place to share information, to bring
Right.
people to Old Town.
Well, you
You
can't.
talked about the routes you want to take. You're gonna send them down. We're all talking about routes here, all these things.
You're creating your own maps.
Yeah, so.
And you have to go and you have to say, okay, it's gonna be easy, just go, and then you tell them the landmarks and you go.
And here's your punch card, and every business that you visit, they're gonna punch a card.
There you go. That's important. Thank you so much. I mean, you're a destination, the National Wildlife Refuge, for sure. We need to capitalize on that. Definitely.
So I want to be good about time, and I know we started a little bit late, but we're hitting close to the hour. There's a few more things here we'll touch on. One is we sort of examine the uses in downtown. This diagram sort of dissects a little bit of the purple areas are really sort of the heart of where your retail, commercial, civic uses are in Old Town. We had some early discussions. I asked the commission and others, what's like the heart of Old Town? And a lot of folks said, probably Railroad, or Railroad Washington. But Pine is a pretty important street as well as First Avenue because these are sort of arrival points. And most of the area is pretty built out in that purple area, but you'll notice Pine has a number of, that's where there's sort of broken teeth in that smile, right? There's some vacant lots, there's some infill opportunities. And so thinking about investment down the road where new businesses would go, maybe where some housing could be built, these gray areas then become important areas to look at what can fill those over time. And so we're interested in the vacant sites. We're interested overall in the uses of downtown. So we mapped all the different businesses, the types of businesses, and broke them into categories of commercial services like hair salons, personal services. It could be a lawyer. That's kind of in the blue area. Food and beverage, the restaurants that you have, whether it's breakfast or even symposium falls into that. And then retail, which is very limited. So you see, you're pretty heavy on the services side, pretty low on the retail, and you've got some food and beverage, but there's sort of a gap in it. There's not a number of breakfast restaurants, for instance. Like you can get donuts at the library, you can get a little bit of snack at Symposium, but it's a little difficult to find a number of different places for either lunch sometimes or breakfast. So there's room to like add more to the food and beverage realm and to extend the amount of time that people are eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Do you have a mix of what would be appropriate in a successful Old Town district?
There's not a perfect number, but in terms of square footage, you have about 125,000 aggregate of all these three things, these three categories. And that is definitely, that's pretty healthy. If you're, for a community this size in the geographic area, I think
That-
125 is good. So
In
as
that
you,
case, the critical mass, we just need to have
Yes.
the balance, and that's what I was asking.
now it's like, yes, it's getting enough variety. So adding some more restaurants, certainly retail, which is very hard in this market now because of the internet and a variety of reasons, retailers are less likely, but still, if you're able to bring those in, it can add to it. But even think of like, you have some antique stores, but expanding on that into home decor shops. So you have the antique version, you might have like more interior contemporary things happening, and you can create clusters of like home furnishing. That could be a sort of retail market you might pursue.
Or you,
because you have
you
it,
do not have a bookstore here.
or you don't have
Maybe-
a bookstore.
Maybe a bookstore. That would be good for senior friendly, which is good for everyone. So kids would love that.
Or open up half the library to the bookstore.
You would feel-
Well, because you can't order plans online, you wanna go.
Yes, that is right.
So we also looked at, so not only do you have 125,000 of uses, but are they aggregated in an area that creates these active zones? And so we did this heat map of red means most intense uses where you see a lot of foot traffic, like the library or symposium. And so Pine sort of has this morning gather circuit. And so in the morning, you do see sort of a ramp up of people in Old Town, either getting coffee, a lot of younger families going to the library. We also see kids in the afternoon after school congregating around the library, congregating around the donut shop, hanging out on Railroad. We see a little bit of cluster of a lunch crowd off of Main and First, like that's what we experienced when we were here. There's also retailer and a spa on Main, and so we saw quite a bit of foot traffic around the lunch hour in that portion of downtown, not so much in some of the other parts. And then along Railroad, you have a mix of sort of AM and PM businesses, but there's definitely gaps where like one place is closed, the other place isn't quite open yet. We did notice that on Monday and Tuesday, it was largely difficult to eat downtown. So you're not gonna eat dinner on Monday and Tuesday
Or before 9 AM.
or before 9 AM.
Right.
Yeah,
For
Sure.
this map. So is there another map that you use that describes most active and least active uses of non-monetary based locations? For instance, a lot of people congregate at the Cannery Square, which is not a monetary based location, but there's no heat associated with it.
right. Yeah, we should have done that because you could also say that, much like the art center where it pulses when there's events and things and Cannery Square and also Robin Hood Plaza. Yes, we probably should at least acknowledge that those are these public amenity spaces.
Center. Also, we sometimes get little like.
Oh,
in the
okay.
very end.
Yeah.
So,
The book I bought.
so we also looked at like what we call storefront presentation. And that is like, are there windows and doors across a building that are inviting? You can see inside, the wine shops do a great job of like, you can see their product right through the glass. They have seating right outside their front door. And so the red areas, your corners, you have three amazing corners where basically buildings on all three or four sides have great window openings and doors oriented to the street. On Pine, you have a couple of blocks that are one-sided, so the library is very open and inviting and the donut shop, but across the street, it isn't. It's elevated, the windows and doors are, you can't really even see inside. Across from Symposium, you have a vacant use, you have a church that does have events, but again, it's windowless, it doesn't create an active edge. And so we've also mapped out the physical environment along your streets. So we see a lot of one-sided on Pine, some weak corners and some really important like entries into town. So at Third and Pine, not very active. You got a blank wall building on one corner and two vacant sites. At First and Pine, which we would call typically your 100% corner, because that's where you really feel like you're in Old Town. And you've got two vacant sites there. And then I think the other, depending on the way you look at it, beginning or end, At Pine and Columbia, that's the other sort of major entry. And you've got a great art center there and Cannery Square. Those are good anchors, but you've got, again, vacant sites. So these are opportunities. But they're just clear-eyed and we know where some holes need to be filled. So then we know that the built environment is really important to maintain the character. You want to complement the historical nature of Old Town. There have been some discussions about issues with new development maybe not performing as well, and are there opportunities to adjust zoning modifications to address things like the roof line on this project or these depth of windows? These are kind of tacked onto the outside. These windows here below, they kind of have the transom flipped, so the smaller windows that you typically have up high that you could open to let heat out, they've kind of flipped it the other way. So we think that there's some room certainly to look at zoning modifications as a part
Can I
of
ask you a
this.
quick question? on
Yes,
that? Aren't there guidelines in historic Old Town as far as architecture goes? Or they're not?
Yeah,
there are.
there are, but do
So
they,
is it,
should they be improved? So
the sloped roof building falls under those?
Yes.
I'm just curious.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't out of bounds.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, that's
The-
out
It's
of
like
bounds.
it's like a single pitch roof, so it's like it is like railroad Americana, but it's not.
It just doesn't fit Old Town. I didn't realize it was out of bounds. Sorry.
I mean, it's not.
So it's legal under the rules when it was built, but
Mhm.
there is interest on from a lot of directions to update the rules. Because the idea of having a sloped roof like that, well, I don't think it was on anybody's radar of when those were designed. The intent was a um, flat roof was the expectation that some people might do, not a flat, single sloped like that.
Got it.
Also, I'm gonna put it out there now because this is the time for people to be aware. State legislature has put out new rules. And currently, the building that we're all talking about is built to the height limitation of our zone. But with the new state mandates, someone could come in under the statement of affordable housing and put an extra floor. So we would have 4 stories available in Old Town by state mandate for affordable housing. So people just to be aware, that is a concern or an opportunity, depending on if you want 4 stories in Old Town.
Is that a bill or is that
It
it's a
came-
law?
It's a state law.
State law came through executive order and the CFAC, climate friendly and equitable community. No,
This one actually passed through state legislature.
did it? Oh, good.
So,
Senate bill. Oh, yeah, Senate bill.
and so then coupled with that challenge on the redevelopment side in Old Town is there's that possibility to fold into plans, and then our ability or not to mandate ground floor retail in redevelopment.
Well, it's worse, I think you missed another one. Well, because Smockville is 4 stories
Mhm.
and can go to 5 stories. And within, is it a half mile or 3/4 mile? We cannot ask a developer to put any parking in.
Right.
What's the distance?
I think it's a quarter mile of the
Oh.
town center. A half mile?
I think it's at least a half mile.
Half mile.
So within a half mile of the bus line that's in Sherwood,
Mhm.
we cannot ask developers to provide any parking.
You can't require a minimum.
Can't require
Minimum.
parking.
And then another thing we have to keep in mind with on the redevelopment side is if it is under the guise of affordable to do more units on a project, and there's a definition that has to be reviewed, they can reduce or ignore design standards.
Correct.
They can get an exception.
They can get an exception, yeah.
I think up to 10, they can get up to 10 deviations, if you will, from the code, which includes everything that was just mentioned, the design standards, the height, everything, yeah. So it doesn't even have to be for affordable housing, it's just for any housing development that's 17 units per acre or more. they would automatically qualify for these.
So there's that has to be folded into the conversation, of the risk reward. The positive on redevelopment is most vacant land in Old Town is owned, controlled by the city.
Mhm.
So, as long as the city is a good actor in who they sell to and restrictions that between a private contract between, be it a government entity and a private or whatever, they can impose their will on future projects. If the seller is wanting to buy it. But the biggest risk on redevelopment is on private property. So far, there's been some conversation I know with staff and that's been positive, not wanting to do something that is not welcome in the community.
So, all good points. This map, the yellow color represents city-owned property in Old Town. So you see the majority of these dashed black lines, that's city-owned property. The solid black lines, which there are a few, but they're fairly narrow, 50 by 100, basically lots are private development. Almost everything is along Pine Street, public and city-owned. So we are looking at a number of these sites as a part of this effort. And the idea is to look at development scenarios that try to create the space for the types of uses you want in downtown that are gonna address and look at building heights and density and what are trade-offs. Potentially what we are likely to see from the development side, because we have Leland Consulting in here and they're gonna talk about trends and give us a sense of what developers are likely to build, and then we can sort of test those on sites and see from the decision-making perspective, community perspective, what's acceptable and what might not be. So this is a great opportunity to really, yeah. I'm gonna go a few more stay right where you are, Keith. I'm gonna get you to this map right here. So there's the fire station right there.
Right.
And thinking about how we'd extend Columbia, for instance, maybe to Oregon.
Yeah, and this is your opportunity
You think that's the connection?
to
Yeah.
evaluate. And does that have to be one way, or would that ever happen, right in, right out, or?
When we were looking at it before, when the Oregon Street was realigned, there was a lot of angst from the railroad and that crossing. I would be surprised if you could get a dotted line to connect at the railroad.
Close to it, yeah.
You could.
Having something in here is, it would take an act of.
The railroad gods.
Yeah.
Well, the crossing is there and with the signal.
But you
set
could put
signal timing,
another intersection there.
I wouldn't say you couldn't until you
Right in.
actually. I think you can
But we're
engineer
just saying
it,
it's a-
absolutely.
And get and
They
take
can't
it.
take away the crossing, and if you're maintaining the same number of lanes across that, I'm not sure that they have any, they can't tell you.
I'll defer to others.
I mean, I don't know, it's already in process, so.
Yeah, I don't know what your experience is with railroads.
Yeah,
Do you, I don't know, my experience with railroads, they have an incredible amount of power. An incredible amount of power.
They own, not they own, but they control
Yeah.
the approach up to their.
Yeah.
so any recent improvements you've done at that intersection, you have to get approval from.
Oh,
When you
yeah.
did the free ride here, or any, when the
Well, so.
when the path comes up, when you build the path up here,
The
you'll need to
crossing
get
has existed
approval
forever,
from.
yeah. And we had attempted to do a split off to come down that dotted line.
Mhm.
And that was, if you do that, then you lose your crossing.
Yeah, the railroad
Yeah.
really wanted us to close that crossing and to take Oregon down through that dotted line.
So
And
it,
not cross the railroad tracks at all.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, so that was,
Got it.
that would be the
So
concession.
to your
If we
point,
went
bringing it
down-
out onto Willamette or what
Yes.
this way here is the division is the is the more likely
Right, because
scenario.
if you connect Oregon Street, they'll close the crossing. That was what was going to happen when Anglanger Farms came through. So the real, to have,
You can't close.
Wow.
the railroad would have closed. the
I mean,
crossing.
another interesting scenario is not knowing what's going on with this property on the corner.
Yeah.
But, you know, having this align like that, it's certainly more normalized and allow us
Good luck.
better.
So, yes, and if there was an unlimited amount of money,
Right,
but the likelihood, and again, I'm just one perspective and one
Sure.
voice. If you're gonna go down the path of engaging the railroad on something, the better energy is to try to restore a crossing, even if it's just a pedestrian crossing in Old Town.
Yes,
mm-hmm,
exactly.
Across Washington.
mm-hmm,
If by some miracle we could get a pedestrian crossing there or vehicular crossing, that used to be one, but we closed it when we opened the one on Pine. Swapped them because
Sure.
Pine was a much more logical
That
scenario.
would definitely make the Art Center parking lot more useful if we could open
Yes.
that up.
Yeah,
So let's say if this isn't a done deal, here, part of the issue is this site is far less valuable in its current state with the limited access that it has.
yeah,
If we can get Columbia up over to here and then it's a game changer. It creates essentially a new front door to Old Town.
It's true.
Now you can connect and get right onto Columbia and it's like you're at the Art Center. There's no
yep,
roundabout through this weird residential thing and cruising down first. You're right there. I
yeah,
mean, I see it and I can't get there. So
yep.
however we gotta reconfigure this and somehow
Like
get
I said, I'm a big,
Super.
once I
We
heard
want
that
to
they,
explore that.
right, so the fire district, well, the problem they have is that it's
Then-
undersized for the needs and it's not, it's built for an all-male crew. And that's not reality.
Got it.
So they have to, everything I'm told is they need to build a new one. We've had conversations about helping them to try to find a new location. They have
Super.
not found them anything.
Okay.
Maybe they found something that they're
In
just not.
Sherwood, they want one, okay.
But it would certainly become,
That would help, like, to create a path to make that connection and create, frankly, another development site, right? In the entry to downtown, whether that's expanding the garden or whatever it is, it could be a really
well, the
important.
garden was a placeholder.
Is,
Good.
is there a criteria for Sherwood to have certain number of affordable housing units?
There is a state law or some sort that dictates, goals.
Okay.
And we have to make steps towards achieving those
So,
goals.
so just to throw this out there, for us to get ahead of it and engage with early and on with an affordable housing developer so that city can dictate what it looks like rather than fall to what the state mandated rule would be for affordable housing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. Seth,
Remember, we all need to probably rely on the railroad tracks at some point. We don't know what's happening. We want to make sure our railroad track, sorry, go ahead.
so I'm just coming back to the schedule here. We've talked through most of the points here. I kind of have a hard stop in about 5 minutes because I got to pick up my son at guitar lessons. But just to let you know, those 4 sites that we identified, we're going to look at some development scenarios. To Keith's point, we're going to look at what that access connection might be from Columbia to Division. Now that we know that the fire station really is potentially that site is potentially in play, I think that opens the door to look at that connection differently than what you saw there. And your history with the railroad is, I heard that loud and clear. So I think we can.
To do what we, for the collective, to do what we've done in Old Town, and we redid all the intersections we have, we moved one. We had to rebuild the railroad crossing on Sunset. The city through our general fund and our renewal fund, we rebuilt the railroad tracks in the entire city infrastructure, or the city limits of the city. It's all new railroad tracks that are almost never used,
Yeah.
but the railroad had the power to require that. And we used to have a railroad siding in Old Town. As part of, which we got them to relocate, which was another pound of flesh. So we built them a brand new railroad siding somewhere outside of town.
Yes.
Wow.
Do you know,
Extremely expensive.
do you know, were we working with ODOT at all during that, or was it the railroad specifically?
Railroad specifically, and ODOT rail too.
Yeah, because we're gonna do a technical advisory committee and invite ODOT Rail to be on that. If we can get someone from the railroad to be on the technical advisory committee for this, we should do that as well. But I think that'll be the place where
Yeah.
hopefully these come together. But we can.
This
probably get-
intersection and the additional pedestrian crossing at Washington, the feasibility, that would be part of that
We
discussion.
can put them on the spot a little bit.
Didn't-
Or during these meetings. Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
It was brought up in a parks meeting last time about a trolley. Is there potential for trolley utilizing that railroad system?
So anything is possible. It's important to know that the west side,
Right. Mhm. Commuter rail.
commuter rail that goes from Mostville to Beaverton, it's on the same company's tracks. For that to be possible, all the employees are railroad employees. And the entire track got rebuilt, to their specifications. And then they pay a fee annually to TriMet to use the tracks as well. So a trolley is certainly possible if it meets railroad standards of a train, because it is a train track, which means it's gotta be probably a diesel engine. Or maybe electrified, maybe now of 100% battery powered or natural gas powered. And then you just have the money to pay to use the tracks and have union railroad employees run it.
The beauty of this PAC is that we're gonna present ideas here
Yeah.
first. And we've dealt with the rail many times. We've performed some miracles, but sometimes no.
Yeah.
So we're not naive about that. ODOT as well. We actually got a crosswalk across ODOT highway. We painted ourselves, which is that.
And there's been visions of the wine,
Yeah.
the wine train, the
Sure.
casino
Oh,
train.
absolutely.
Yes.
Of having literally being able to have some sort of train that goes between Sherwood,
Right.
or whatever, all the way down to the casino.
This line runs all the way to the Brooklyn Yards.
Right, and they built the trestle, so, I mean, they have an idea in their head, so we need to, we need to get.
Right.
This used to be part of the.
Austin, go next.
Yeah.
Right, 1910, right through here.
I'm sorry, but I have to go. Is there going to be minutes and stuff sent out to us and agenda for next meeting?
Yeah. No.
I just,
Yes.
I
We'll
mean,
send
so
out
we can start,
summary.
like what you want us to be thinking about before the next meeting, there'll be some kind of format sent to us? 'Cause I mean,
Yes.
okay, perfect.
Yeah, if the PowerPoint's sent out.
Get you a summary of this, we'll send you the PowerPoint, and then we'll prep you before the next meeting for the topics that will be covered.
And that gives us time to think about some of these things we're talking about more in depth, talk to people, try and get some input from our customers and people we know. That would be great, because I think that would be very
It's a
helpful.
good idea.
Okay. I appreciate
you,
everyone. I have
Lawson.
to go. Bye.
I think we're good. Thanks, Lawson.
Thank you.
Hi, Renee. See you, Tara.
Bye. Thank you.